Yeah, it's Jean from Montreal.
John from Montreal. What's on your mind?
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I mean, how you doing over there? Our new greatest enemy state, Canada.
It's very panicky over here.
A little bit of feedback on your mic, by the way, if you don't mind.
Sorry about that.
Take me off speaker or off headphones.
There's no real rhyme or reason to what this administration is doing. And I think a lot of the damage he's doing is going to be irreversible, at least on the international stage. Not respecting a lot of the very same trade agreements that he signed into law, not respecting war treaties that he has with Ukraine, I think is... I think the rest of the world is going to have a very big problem with trusting the American populace to elect leaders moving forward that kind of agree with the rule of law that's been set by decades and decades of leadership. But more importantly, I think this era in American politics might lead to very broad constitutional reforms. I think Trump is just part of a bigger problem. Whether it's the two-party system, whether it's money in politics, whether it's very partisan Supreme Court. I think he's just exposing a lot of the flaws within the Constitution. And I mean, he's a businessman that's been taking advantage of loopholes in his businesses for decades. I mean, it's not really surprising that now that he has access to unfettered power in government, he's doing the same thing. My question is how long before massive constitutional reform happens, or is it really ever going to happen?
What kind of constitutional reform do you mean?
Well, for one, I think the Supreme Court not being balanced, not having term limits, same thing with Congress, same thing with money in politics. I think those are things that, as long as they're part of the American political system, another Trump might happen later on.
Well, that's the concern, right? I mean, I guess it's specifically the administrative state gutting. It's like, who does this set things up for? And in the same way that, you know, we were critical of Obama for not repealing like the military authorization that was powers that were given to Bush during the war on terror. This is the kind of thing that where you continue to leave the door open and the expansion of executive power. It just means that a demagogue can come in and use those powers for bad.
The question of how long it's going to take is an entirely new generation of Democrats.
Yeah.
No good showing or even primarying people out is going to turn this around in a midterm. You have too many people controlled that don't actually give a shit about what's happening, really. They need to show that they care, but they and their donors are fine with a lot of what's happening. So, you know, what's going to... Ultimately, yes, we need to get back to a place like we were pre-civil rights era, where people were looking at the courts and the Senate as, oh, these are legacies of a slaveholder's government that is just very obviously meant to check the masses of people when they have a good idea for a better way of life. And we still have Democrats who look up to Supreme Court justices and senators, frankly. And even like the best leftist in power in the country right now is a Senate institutionalist in Bernie Sanders. So we have a long way to go before we're able to do any of that stuff. And it's horrifying because you've seen all this stuff that's been torn down. It needs to be reconstructed, and there is no actual constructors besides maybe Bernie and a few others. I mean, Elizabeth Warren constructed the CFPB. You're going to need to propose government action on this stuff, and the Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are shy about that because they're neoliberals.
Exactly right, and it would need. I think I said this about maybe just some of my pessimism about the next 4 years. Is like it's very easy to break things, and Trump is doing that and showing the way that you can wield presidential power and test the limits that we've been told are untestable by democratic institutionalists for quite a while. So whoever gets in there in 2028, if they can, would need to be somebody that acts with the respective urgency that this requires and acts with the same amount of force, but on a building side of things that Donald Trump is engaging in. And that's why we played that clip of Tim Walz yesterday, because that's what he's basically saying there, is that you acquire political capital to burn it. And the reality is that Democrats have acquired political capital to satiate their base, as opposed to burning it while really delivering on political capital for their donors.
And burning it should be looked at as like investing in a world that is more conducive to the one that will be better for you in the future. Like, and to put it in concrete terms, from Democrats from Jimmy Carter to Bill Clinton said, fuck those unions. They are actually a problem for progress in this country. They're a problem for our economic priorities. They get in the way of our politics. That they don't let people cook. And what have we seen? Them be decimated in part by Reagan, mainly like Reagan, Patco, a strike, and everything that's followed out since then. But that was enabled by those Democrats saying, you know what, maybe there's something to it. And that has led to a electoral situation where, all of a sudden the working class is even less organized. They're even more prone to like right-wing misinformation. We have this sort of fixation that we can only look at the internet and Daily Wire or whatever the fuck. No, the base of the party has been decimated. And it's like, we're hoping to try to get those numbers back slightly, but I'm sorry, like, we're not getting back to like 1975 unionization levels, and we're all fucked because of it.
Yeah. And
is there I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, to add to his point, the Obama coalition was very, very fractured because of these failed promises, which could have led us to success long term. But
is there a possibility for an advent of a third party? Because I do feel like there are some Democrats that are kind of have to toe the line, but ideologically probably aren't neo-liberals or neo.
I don't think in the immediate.
Democrats.
I think what needs to happen is a independent
populist party.
So there needs to be agnosticism towards the ballot line. If you can get on as a Republican, like Aaron Kowalski, the farmer who called in earlier to do it, get power no matter how you do it. But there does need to be some, and we're heading in the wrong direction on this with AOC saying we're not going to be insurgents anymore. Well, she can do that, and good luck to her. And I hope she gets climbs very high in the party. But in terms of like what we need to do, there needs to be some kind of line in terms of supporting shitty ass Democrats that are going to support crypto in Israel and the type of people who we need to get into power right now. And I'm not sure, I would like to see more from Bernie on that front, because working within the party, there needs to be some kind of fence, at least. Look, I still think running in Democratic primaries is a absolute must, but there needs to be an understanding that most of this party is corrupt, and from the head down, it's going to rot like a fish.
It does feel like Bernie being pushed out in 2016 was the start of a precipitous decline within the Democratic base.
Yeah.
I just at his advanced age, like what kind of, rallying behind Bernie, I'm from Canada, I'm all for it. He advocates a lot of the stuff that we get to enjoy here, and he seems like the most common sense politician out there, but Bernie is not a party. Bernie is an individual who, is doing the great work, but what's after Bernie?
I know. Well, that's gotta get
we need people to be serious about winning power.
Yeah.
Like Bernie was, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And Robin Wansley, independent Democrat in Minneapolis City Council. And the truth is, she works with Democrats all the time. She's trying to get Omar Fateh elected mayor, because that's just the reality of politics right now. And so there's I think you cannot understate the problems with the Democratic Party, but also there's a risk of overcorrecting, saying we can't work with them at all. And it's like, well, play Cyberpunk 2077, because there's nothing. That's how this system is set up right now.
Yeah. Appreciate the call. Well, Thanks so much.
Oh, all right. Sounds good. Thank you. Bye.
Chris Burdick says, you're spot on that it's easy to break things, and the Democrats have shown time and time again they have little or no interest in rebuilding those things once they're broken. They have this militant fetish for defending the status quo no matter how degraded it is. It's like they view their own privilege as a Jenga tower, and they're terrified that the slightest change might cause it to collapse. Well said.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.